It's
Yeah.
recording as of now. Yeah.
Is donked. Donk. In game, the donk seemed fine, but I looked at a sim earlier and some donks. Yeah, against the donk, you're not supposed to raise queens, which is why I said my hand is bad. You raised the lower over pairs, but not queens. I RNG'd pretty low with queens, so I thought it was probably fine at whatever I RNG'd it at. But yeah, you're not supposed to raise queens. It does lose EV as well. Loses like half big blind. If you do raise it, I think, yeah, I looked at a different line in this. His 3-bet isn't bad. Like it's a zero frequency play, but it only loses like a fifth of a big blind approximately. But yeah, if you do bet queens, it basically, the other sim I looked at had it as pure call. Jack's pure call. It's probably a pure call. So I call. And yeah. I don't like how I played that hand. And then look at this one. I want to look at the pocket sixes hand, and then that's pretty much all the hands. This was actually a small mistake on the river by me. Believe it or not. Believe it or not, this is a small mistake on the river by me. So yeah, sixes pure bets the flop. That's essentially what I'm doing in game. He check raised pretty big. Check raise is 2. This is like a pot size check raise. This is probably a pot size check raise. Sixes pure calls. We turn the boat and he overbets. I don't understand. He keeps taking this line where he check raises a paired board and then overbets the turn, which I don't quite understand. It might be fine here because of the ace. Makes you a bit more polar. But like this is like 150% pot.
It's definitely a thing in button versus big blind. I don't know if in heads up, in six max rather. I don't know if it's a.
I don't think it's a thing. But we can look at the pot line, and then my hand pure calls. And I pray to the Lord that there's no ace or 4, and the 4 rolls off on the river, and he checks. And
You're supposed to jam? No. Oh,
you're supposed to check it back. I went like half pot here.
wait, what? How do you check that back?
Do.
No, I would not check that back.
Yeah, it's so weird because he's like, when he overbets the turn, he's saying he either has a 4 or nothing. And so like, what do you even get called by? It's like a value bluff inversion spot where you just like check back and win like 90% of the time, but like you occasionally get check jammed on by ace 4. I think that's the thing that I saw. Yeah, it's like ace 4. You occasionally get check jammed on by ace 4, and yeah, you only get called by like 6x apparently, and you block the 6x that calls.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
But yeah, I screwed that one up. That's like a small
Versus
mistake.
Brandon, I would just be jamming. It's like he could have an ace no.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it actually prefers to bet ace x in the sim just due to the fact that the calling range is the 6x, right? So you bet small, and he's supposed to occasionally hero call the 6x, and he basically never has an ace in this line. And blocking ace 4 is more important than whatever 6 blocks, which is the calling range. So, hey, stay on that side. Yeah, so that hand happens.
Stop, Theo!
Oh, I think there was another pocket sixes hand. Nope, not that one. This one. Oh. This one. Yeah, that was borderline. This is another one where Brandon went very thin. I did call off, but kings should probably not overbet the river. Should probably bet the river smaller. What happened here? No, that hand was standard. Can't find the other one. Check raise flop. Yeah, maybe it's the same hand. All right, yeah, that's pretty much all the hands I wanted to go through. Some were not great, but some were fine. That
Yeah,
said,
great.
you have any input, Thomas?
Yep. Let's go over the stuff that I've been working on.
All right, great.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
I would recommend.
Hey, if you guys excuse me 1 second.
And you could just carry around bullets. Okay, hold this up.
Hey, guys, go upstairs.
Why? I can't.
All right.
All right, can you share my screen?
I'm gonna.
You might have to stop. There we go. All right, great. This is Brandon's stats. Yeah, this is Brandon's stats. Even if you, and that was the last 3 days. Yeah, I mean, where are we at? 17th. Maybe if you just like set it for the last week, 16.65. So like, I don't think his pre-flop strategy has changed that much. I mean, maybe he's opening slightly fewer hands, which doesn't really make sense since you guys have been playing deeper. Either way, like, it hasn't really changed that much.
So he's not adjusting to what I'm doing, is what you're saying.
I think he has no idea what you're doing.
Nice.
I think he has zero clues what the fuck you're doing. Like I think he thinks that you're just like.
I think he thinks you're sun
randomly.
running. I think he thinks you're just sun running, and he's actually still at the advantage.
Yeah, that seems to be
He-
the consensus.
He doesn't really get it. So I'll show you this stat here. There we go. So yeah.
His fault to
So he-
bet is what?
Yeah, so him in the big blind, his fault to four bet is 19%.
That's
Um,
super low.
yeah, so it should be closer to like 40 to 50%.
Jesus.
Is that because you think he has a linear 3-bet? 2 linear of a 3-bet? We discussed that before, though.
Yeah. I mentioned that to Marcus and Simon before he came on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. So against the 4-bet, so in terms of his 3-bet range, right, 16.72,
Mhm.
3-bet slightly more against the small size, slightly less against the big size, which is what you'd expect, but it's still like super low. Like it should be like closer to 20-ish. So just missing a bunch of bluffs. And you requested that I, try to figure out what ranges it's doing. I tried to run some sims. Like the solver will never construct the range the way that he's constructed it.
Mhm.
So I had to lock it like this. So this is what I locked for the 3-bet range against a small size.
Yeah, it looks about right.
Right.
It looks like an upswing range.
Yeah, 18%. And this is what I locked against the big size, so just slightly less. Slightly more mixed hands.
Yeah. That looks accurate.
So
I think you could probably
and then there's the folding frequencies.
Yeah.
The folding frequencies are significantly high, especially against your big size. So and then also I locked his 4-bet frequencies against the 4-bet each line. So it's folding fine there. Folding too little here. So basically what the solvers come up with is that you can open big, you 3-bet 2, you massively overfold.
Yeah.
Right. So these are all the hands that would fold. Like you're continuing less than 10% of the time. Sorry, less than 20% of the time. Mostly here is a call.
And you're no longer slow playing like the jacks and queens.
Yeah. So none of that will slow play anymore because he never folds.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. The tens as well. Just raise it. Ace queen, just raise it. Ace queen suited, just raise it. It's like tens plus ace queen, just full bet. But like a lot of the tens plus ace queen actually go into the small size now. So yeah. Jacks plus ace king suited. Like these mostly go into the small size. Like you can see ace king suited 100% frequency, aces and kings 90% frequency into the small open. Your big open is pretty unprotected. A little bit of ace king offsuit, a little bit of tens. The reason why it's unprotected is because it's not 3-betting that much against your big size.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't really matter. And then when he just calls, right? He calls with, say, for example, this range. He checks you, like you're gonna have loads of opportunities to just like hammer him on the flop. Your check back frequency is going to go up significantly, right? Because he's not 3-betting you enough. You're opening into those sizes more, relying on him not 3-betting enough, and then checking back the flop.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Let me think about that. So I'm
So
opening
if
sizes.
so if you've got a weak hand, which is the majority of your hands,
yeah, it
you're
doesn't
gonna
want to get
open-
3-bet. And so it opens to
Yeah.
the size that he's under 3-betting against. And then you get to the flop
and then
you have a bunch of garbage that just wanted to see a flop.
and it checks back, yeah.
Okay.
And then when you do bet, you can use some big sizes on some certain flops. So like you just like pot out a good chunk of the time. You can like the betting frequency overall is decreased, but the bet sizes themselves are going to be pretty much the same, with the exception that you're just going to use fewer of these small bet sizes. Like there's significantly less. That's in the big size, and certainly in the small size. In the small size, you're betting a lot more because that's where a lot of your strong hands are. But still, like a lot of stuff is going to be checking back. 44% here, right? Which leverage like a massive check back frequency.
Is call just check in this context?
Yeah, because just check. Yeah, but call slash check. And then yeah, you can still go pretty big on certain flops.
Nice.
Read through which flops you're betting at. So here's some 2x on ace 10 queen. Some 150 on 356. Ace 10 jack. 10 3 7.
Yeah, I think what I'm gonna do is
125.
to just run a bunch of post flop sims with this sim in Pio. Just the 3-bet pots because they're easy and fast to run, and get a feel for the 3-bet pot strategy because I expect it to be significantly different now that like everything has changed.
Yeah. So like if you open small and then he 3-bets you, like this is where your main 4-bet is. right?
Okay.
Like you're going to be four betting to the small size, and then let him rip into you
Mhm.
with whatever, and then like you basically never fold to the jam because you don't have any bluffs there. Well, not that many bluffs. I mean, obviously you can chuck a few in, but not really
Yeah.
necessary.
Yeah.
Um,
What is his jamming range looking like against the 4-bet in this sim?
like this.
Yeah. Can you go to range?
Yeah, looks like this.
He's supposed to be jamming ace jack suited. And king queen suited.
Yeah, I
Mm,
mean this is how the solver gets to that frequency.
yeah. Yeah. It's probably more centered around like the 8s and 7s than the ace jack suited. Even though the solver would do it this way, I think Brandon's likely doing it in a different way.
Yeah, I mean if that is the case, you should definitely be four betting a lot more like tens, jacks, and queens.
Yeah, yeah, because they just stack the lower under pairs. Okay.
Exactly. But either way, like you're still going to be massively overfolding. Like you're overfolding against his three bets. So that's sort of what you should. That's what the range looks like. Yeah, just four bet ace queen suited.
Are all the offsuit Broadways folding? With the exception
Yeah,
of
yeah. I mean,
like the
this
strong
is
ones.
the
Yeah, the 10x.
strategy.
Jeez.
So all these 10x ones are folding. Ace jack and queen jack are probably pretty close.
Is not in the size. Queen jack offsuit just not in the size. This is the
Yeah,
the 2.1x. Yeah,
just the 2-1x queen jack
Okay.
also is not.
not in there
It's in
too
there.
much. Where does it go?
Oh no, you're four betting it. Yeah.
Oh, four
yeah,
betting?
four bet bluff.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, if you use it there, you turn into a four bet.
All right.
Four bet bluff.
That makes sense.
So then there's a limp size, then such doesn't have aces and kings or ace kings suited in it. Like call, raise. And then
What's the limping
you
range look
massively
like? Could we go over that? Just like a
so
quick
his limping range looks like this. So your limping range looks like this.
Mhm.
So like it's sort of similar, like these hands. You're limping a lot more. So like because he's playing a three bet so weak, you can raise more hands. So all these hands go into a raise, and like the only hands that you're folding are like 7-2 and 3-2 now.
Oh wow.
Then you just limp the rest. Yeah, so we're getting to the stage where like he's playing so poorly preflop that you can get close to 100%. Or like I said, it's a 33%. This is what it's come up with at 33%. And then I also locked his fold call and three bet frequencies against your fold call and four bet frequencies against your three bet, then three bet. He's like probably massively overfolding against the limp three bet. So and under four betting. So that basically means that you're going to use a bunch of bluffs essentially.
The limpery raise.
In a limp raise, yeah.
Okay.
And like you don't really have that much value in here.
The limpery raise.
Yeah.
Nice. I think I
Yeah,
got four bet once.
because you don't need to really be trapping. Full raise, yeah. I mean, obviously, any other value that you do have is still value. In terms of the strategy, like using a bunch of hands in your three bet value range. So like these hands aren't really here that much, but let's do ace queen, king queen, ace jack, pocket tens, pocket jacks. And then the strategy of the hands. Like these hands don't really make it here too often.
Mhm.
But when they do, they always go for the
Limpery
three
raise.
bet. But just in general, like this is what the range would look like, and it's got a lot of your suited hands, and these suited block over here, a bunch of offset hands. So like your limp re-raise frequency is going to go up,
Mhm.
and it's going to be very bluff heavy, and you can just like bluff him. He calls, he checks, and then you check back. So like you look at this board overview, like your check back frequency is now going to be 71% overall.
Wow.
So that means like basically you go for limp raise, he overfolds slightly, he under four bets. And so you've got a bunch of bluffs that will want to realize equity because he basically always checks. I haven't removed this jam line, but I don't think this jam line's been taken too often anyway. 7.6% of the time. So like if that's the case, like you probably just check back like more north of 70% of your range in this limp three bet pot just to catch up.
Got it.
Because he's overfolding. Like he's overfolding significantly.
Is that are we still splitting limp re-raise sizes?
No, it's just going to now be to this 12.5.
Okay, that's fine.
With everything basically. So yeah, that's what it looks like. Basically like you're not getting through bet enough. So with your weak hands, you can raise and then check back to flop, or raise and then bomb or flop if you've got a strong hand. At a higher frequency, when you face a three bet, you're massively overfolding. You can still have some limps with like really shitty hands, and then go for limp raise at a pretty high frequency.
All right.
Call raise. Like you're defending a lot by looking for limp raise. So like limp raise 23%, call 30%, fold around half the time.
And how much EV are we looking to gain with this exploit?
So I went from what, like 14, 15 to 18, 19. So probably 4 would be in EV when you're in the small blind.
Nice. All right. So that's like an additional 2 big blinds per 100, just like for free, basically, if he continues doing this strategy for any length of time.
Yeah. Given your adjustment and that if you continue to play it reasonably well. All right. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the suit twos go into the big size because the suit twos block folds in the small size.
Yeah.
Right. And that's another thing people don't really get. Like you can construct your ranges with splits in order to unblock and unblock folds accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah, I did notice that. It's like the suited 2x generally prefers to 2.7x at a higher frequency than the other ones. Yeah. Because it's more folds
more
out
obvious,
of, like the folding range has fewer twos. It's less too dense, if that's the right terminology. It's like there are
that's
twos and
that's exactly the right terminology. Yeah. And then there's this 5-bet I call preflop 4-bet 50%. All right. Preflop 5-bet. Yeah, preflop 5-bet 31%. So like he's just not really folding and he's just ripping it in against your 4-bet. And so your 4-bet should be the smaller size.
What should a 5-bet
probably
percentage look like?
In heads up, probably 20-ish%.
Okay. Yeah, it did feel like he was 5-betting me too frequently.
The 20, 25. Yeah, so we'll try this one. His 4-bet frequency's dropped off a lot. Okay, so I have to rerun the hero and big blind sim as well.
Yeah, I did notice that. It felt like I was not getting 4-bet very often. I got 4-bet maybe 3 times today.
Yeah, he seems maybe he's opening fewer hands than he used to.
Wait. He's opening
Folds a
more
pre-flop.
than when we
Quite a
last
bit.
checked because he was already over opening when we last checked, right?
He was opening 84, and now he's opening 81 on
Oh, okay.
average. So it's dropped down.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
ISO against your limp 34%, almost. Fold to pre-flop 5 bet 70%,
Wow.
which is a lot.
Yeah, that is
It's what it's going to be. Yeah, 7 out of 10. So he's 4 bet, and then you rip it in, and he folds 7 out of 10 times.
that sounds
And
extremely.
that when I would expect that to be like 4 or 5.
Yeah, it could be distribution at this point, right? But it's yeah. I also get the vibe, and I don't know how to explain this. I understand if you don't approve, but I get the vibe from him that he's not RNGing 4 bets per se. And he very well may not even be RNGing 3 bets. He may just be like feeling it out pre-flop in certain spots. Like he could be RNGing, but just the vibe I get is that he's not. What are your thoughts on those thoughts?
Yeah, there's a strong possibility. Given the way they've played so far, it's a strong possibility. Um, well, we're
Is he range betting
Understand.
every flop?
he range was every flop when you when he 4 bets. Is that what that
That's
means?
4 bet. I thought it was 3 bet.
Yeah. So when he 4 bets, he basically range bets a flop.
Okay.
It's happened 13 out of 14 times. So he's never checked back.
All right.
Like, yeah, very rarely checked back.
What's his 3 bet C bet frequency like? Because it feels like he's C betting at too high a frequency in 3 bet pots. And potentially stabbing too frequently in position after calling a 3 bet. But now that I think of it, if he's 3 betting me with too tight of a range / too merged of a range, and I'm calling a normal GTO range betting every flop might not even be that bad, just because he's just bringing such a strong range to the felt.
Yeah. I mean, you haven't really been folding against his 3 bets anyway. So
Against his
like
what?
against his like he likes the 1/3 C bet a lot in the 3 bet pot. So 3 bets pre flop and then 1/3 C bet.
Oh yeah.
Or something like that, 1/3 or 1/4. And then like you don't really fold, so you should be folding more. Like this number should be closer to 20%.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, and also given like how strong he is with his pre-flop range, like it's probably um part of the reason.
Yes. I will.
Like if we redo this and then we filter for and then like we'll call 3 bet. It's doing pretty well so far.
Yeah, probably a fair bit of luck involved here, but
Yeah, there's a very significant amount of luck in order for you to run this well when calling a 3-bet. Um, I don't expect this to continue, to be honest.
yeah, it
Uh,
might be just a fact, just a product of the fact that I've been running so well in 3-bet pots. The fact that I have folded so infrequently to C bets, I just always have something.
yeah, it could be the case. Just I just watch it to make sure you're not over
Yeah,
continuing
for
against
sure.
his 3-bet. You could just be really lucky and just every time you call 3-bet and you always hit, which would explain a good chunk of the results so far.
I think overfolding flops because I've made some floats that I know were like GTO floats. Like there's one where I floated King 10 of hearts against a 1/3 C bet when Jack 3-3. And I did not have a backdoor flush draw. I had King 10 suited with hearts. There was no heart on the board. And I knew at the time it was a GTO float, but like given this information about how strong his 3-bet range is, it's probably best to just ditch it on the flop within that context.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll upload this one as small one version 5, so you can take a look at it.
Right.
Just small version 5 preflop, and then I'll run a version 5 for the big blind, given the fact that like he always see bets the flop when he full bets. Because that'll change things a lot, like a lot. Like if he opens a small blind, you 3-bet, you 4-bets, you call, and then he always see bets the flop. That means you can change your pre-flop strategy to trap his flop bet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just like check jam all over the place.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'll rerun that as well, given the slightly lower opening frequency. Um, is there anything else that you want me to look at in terms of the sims? I've almost finished
Yeah,
the 100 through to 200 different stack depths for like GTO sims. So take a look at those, and then I'll try to construct some sims with near optimal sizes if needed. See if he's playing up to near optimal sizes. Probably not. I'm pretty sure that the 3-bet size increases slightly over as you get deeper. Not as much as in 6 max, um, but it does increase slightly.
okay.
The 4-bet
Yeah.
size definitely increases. Like 4-bet size goes up like crazy.
Yeah. I have access to strings pre-flop stuff, and there's like 200 and 300 big blind deep pre-flop stuff. Yeah, I noticed that like the 3-bet size doesn't seem to increase that much, but I noticed the 4-bet size increases like quite a bit. It goes from like optimal at like 23, or like the average 4-bet size is like 23 up to like 30 once you get to like 300 big blinds, like maybe even bigger. But yeah, I wanted to look at real quick in the check down lines. It feels as though he rarely checks back a third time in position. So when he opens and I call, flop checks through, turn checks through, I check the river to him. It feels as though he's not checking back very often. Yeah, just take a look. And then after this, I would like to check the profitability of my marginal big blind defense. Because if he's putting in too much money post flop, it also feels as though, so I think we established previously that my river probe bluffs are very inefficient, right? So if like he c-bets the flop and I call, or if he doesn't c-bet the flop, and the turn checks through, and we get to the river and I probe the river, I think we established that he's significantly underfolding. So that could necessitate a tighter flop continue range, because if the point of continuing a hand is essentially to try to steal the pot on a later street, it's probably not going to be nearly as profitable, right?
I didn't catch that. So here in the line you're talking about is bet river around half the time.
Really?
Yeah. Check flop, check turn, not opportunity to raise, not opportunity to yeah.
Okay.
And then opportunity to bet. Let's check down the line.
Great. Yeah, and then let's check the profitability of my marginal big blind defense.
In which line, sorry?
Just in the single raise pot, just like open and calling like king 3 offsuit, or that kind of stuff. It's like the outer edge of the calling range. I wanted to check real quick.
I mean, there's not going to be a whole bunch of hands. for this.
Yeah, I did think of that. It's gonna be high variance, but I did want to check this. Check how those hands are doing. Yeah, for them to be profitable, it would have to be losing less than 100 big blinds per 100. What are we looking at? It's losing.
171.
Yeah, that seems like a lot. It feels like we should be losing less than that with these hands, right? Like,
Yep. So these hands should all be less than 100. It's less than minus 100, or more than minus 100, I should say.
Yeah.
So yeah, these hands are losing a lot.
How much of that is red line and blue line? I only ask that because like if I'm getting red lined, like it's going to be a lot more consistent than if these hands are consistently showing up at showdown. It's going to be a higher variance.
Yeah, I mean you're losing 100 BB per 100 just in the red line itself. So
yeah. Okay. So perhaps I should consider cutting some of the very edge case big blind defense.
yep. Yep. I agree with that. I mean, it is potential that he's betting the flop, but you're not floating the flop enough or something like that, which could be responsible for this red line. Right. The only reason why the red line is so low and negative is like he's betting the flop too much, and then you fold too much when you miss, rather than float or check raise.
Is he betting the flop too much? In single raise pots? Because like if he's betting the flop too much, then these hands aren't going to realize their equity enough, I'd imagine. It's like if someone's putting in too much money on later streets, you should tighten up on earlier streets. And
Yeah,
it
so
does.
you see bets the flop 60% time, 50. Where does it see that? Yeah, see that flop. Yeah, 56%, 57%.
That doesn't seem that high. But if he does use some bigger sizes, so it's not like his only size is 1/3. So I'd I'd bet that if he's using the 1/3 size on a certain board, he's probably using it at like 65 to 70% frequency. And then when he has the bigger bets, he uses them at lower frequency. So this is likely, like he likely has an average C bet size of around half pot, maybe slightly less, maybe like 45% pot as like the average C bet size. So I think he's likely putting in a little bit too much money on the flop.
This is before we thought he was opening 84, which might have changed. Maybe some of this 10-4 to 10-3 is not in there. See a calling range. So like this is all the junk that could be. Anyway, call. Whatever. This is what its overall C bet frequency should be.
Okay.
It should be closer to 58. So it's 57, so it's not that bad.
All right. So it's actually fairly close.
Whether these remaining frequencies are the same, I'm not sure. So like we got the 1/3, and then the 75%.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Like against the 1/3, your folding should be pretty low.
Mm-hmm.
And then once it like checks through, you should be like bombing the turn a bit more.
What's his fold to river probe is very low though, right? So some of these flop floats that I should be making at equilibrium, it's reasonably possible that they are not profitable flop floats due to the fact that they realize a lot of EV by turn checking through and then betting the river.
Call river bet 33. Fold to river bet 50%.
To river probe 40.
Raise river probe 20%. So yeah, like if he bets the flop and checks back on the turn, he folds half the time.
That
So
seems
that
low.
means that on average you'd be potting it into him on the river. Is that correct, or you betting bigger or smaller?
That's a good question because I use a bunch of different river sizes. I would say I have some very big river probes, but I also have like a bunch of block bets that I use a lot more frequently. So I'd say the average is probably like 60 or 70% pot. But I don't think it's a spot where he's supposed to defend at MDF though, right? Because a big, like most of his EV is going to be in the turn barrel line. Maybe not most, but like a lot of his EV is going to be in the turn barrel line. So like when he bets the flop and the turn checks through, he has a lot more air in his range. Like the big blind has a higher EV range at that.
No, if he bets small on the flop, you usually should be defending pretty well on the river
Okay.
after it checks through. If he bets really big, then maybe not. But still, it's not that big of a thing just because he's had the two streets to catch up, but it's just the one. Usually when you have the two streets to catch up, you would defend that pretty close. Maybe slightly overfold compared to alpha, but not by that much.
All right.
Here, this is his response to anything less than a pot size bet,
Mm-hmm.
and his overall folding is 44%. So, and then that's not. So against bets that are bigger than a pot size bet, 62%. So yeah,
Is that low? Is 62% low in this context?
it means that on average, this is adequate defense against a 150% overbet.
Okay.
So if you overbet 150% on average, whenever you bet more than pot,
Mm-hmm.
that's sort of what that looks like.
Okay. Does that include pot size bets or not including pot size bets? Because I bet exactly the pot in certain spots. And if I don't bet exactly the pot, it's going to be like an average of over 150 because there's 150 and then there's 2x and then there's 3x. So it could be a spot where he's over defending unless that sample includes pot size river bets from me.
Okay, if you want to include your pot size river bets, it's not included.
Okay, it's not included.
So if we don't include it, then you only bet twice. Which is
Really?
strange.
Doesn't sound-
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I got the stats wrong, but that could be the case. Where like whenever you pull the flop and it's checked through on the turn, you haven't quite gone for many of those overbets,
Mm-hmm.
and then he just always folds. When you go for exactly like the half pot bet on the river, we can take a look at that. He's probably overfolding. Hang on, let me make sure that I'm not messing this up. I might have messed it up. Yeah, okay, yeah, I messed it up. My bad. Put the wrong stat in. Put big blinds instead of stats instead of percentage. Yeah, okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, okay. You have about 29%, and then you fold 62%. Yeah. And then the other one includes the pot size bets.
Mhm.
And then if you want to look exactly at your pot size bets, you can do that as well. Your pot size bets 19% of the time, and he folds the pot size bet 42%.
So
So
he's
it's
underfolding.
probably underfolding, yeah.
It's like quite significant, 42% as opposed to what it should be 50%.
Yep.
Yikes.
And then if you go less than the pot size bet, so less than a pot size bet, he folds 45%. So it folds even more when you go less than a pot size bet. So
That might have to do with like the
he seems to be
How many
he seems to be
How many hands are in
stationing
this line though?
I-
84.
84.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah,
the
that's
thing
fine.
is like oftentimes what he'll do is like he'll like 75% the flop and then like the turn will check through and I'll like block bet really small on the river and he'll fold. I think it might be a product of like that specific line where it's like big bet on
Yeah,
the
no,
flop.
he shouldn't really be doing that. He shouldn't really be overfolding even if he goes like to 75%. Like he shouldn't be folding that this much.
Mhm.
To your block bet.
Yeah.
I mean, he should be slightly overfolding when he bets 75, but on the flop, but not But once the turn checks through, like enough of his range should have caught up that he can be defending it more close to correct against the block bet. He needs to be doing a lot of heroing with ace high and stuff.
All right. I think that's about it. Is there anything else?
No, Simon, did you want to say anything?
Marcus?
Yeah, Simon's not here.
Sorry.
No. Like all I want
Marcus,
to
you
do,
were saying?
all I want to do was basically listen. And the only thing, like, you're putting like for pot size, you're putting like 47 to 52. That's correct, instead of 100. You meant to do that?
Yeah. So the way that poker tracks it is alpha.
Okay, all good. Oh,
Yeah,
really?
so you have to find the alpha number. Yeah.
Okay, all good.
You have to find the alpha number for the bet size, and you put that in.
Yeah, I assumed you'd be correct about that.
It is in a weird way.
But I
It
just
is
wanted
in a
to make
weird
sure.
way. Yeah. It's all right.
Um,
It took me a while to figure out why I was getting it wrong, but yeah, it just turns out that when it says calculate percentage of pot facing river bet, like it's
oh, I see.
the
Like,
bet size divided by the total pot, which includes the bet size. So it's
Yeah.
alpha.
Oh,
okay, that's so weird.
that is odd.
All right, fine. Yeah, what's the plan for the weekend, I guess?
So I'm going to be drilling the new preflop stuff because it's
Okay.
all going to be fairly new to me. While I'm drilling it, I'm going to be running sims with it, specifically 3-bet pot sims because those can solve down to a fine accuracy pretty quickly. So I'll like have them by Sunday, and then I'll go through them on Sunday, look everything over, and alter my strategy accordingly.
Okay, good. Yeah, Thomas.
Yeah, I'll just send you these preflop sims. There's some deeper stack stuff which I'm working on, and some more exploit stuff that I'll be working on for you for the simulations. We can talk about them
What's the rule for
a couple of sets times.
for rat holing basically for here?
So the thing with rat holing is we weren't supposed to rat hole, but
It's super to
only
our
way-
advantage not to, like, given how much we are ahead.
Yeah,
For you.
yeah, it is to my advantage. The idea was the time banks on ACR are so shit that you essentially have to reset your time bank. You can reset your time bank as much as you want as long as you have under 120 big blinds. After that, you can reset your time bank once a session. So there's 2 sessions each day, right? You can set it twice a day, essentially, once in the morning session and once in the evening session. So yeah, you can reset it pretty frequently, and that sort of precludes us from doing too much deep stack battling, which does play to my advantage quite a bit at this point in the challenge.
Yep. Thomas, does that make you not want to do as much deep stack stuff, or still worth?
Yeah, it's not as important.
Okay.
It's not as urgent, I guess. It's probably just making some small adjustments here and there. The main thing is once you get to around the 110, 120, 130, like that stuff starts to happen pretty frequently, but there's not too many deviations from what we're currently looking at around the 100 level.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's not
We're hitting like 140, 150 effective like almost every session, but it's not for an extended period of time. It's usually, just a couple hands. All right.
Okay, like the reason I'm saying is, like, if we want, we can, like, basically with that rat hole policy, we can basically eliminate the need to study that if we want to, unless we think that we actually just beat him more there.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I was kind of relieved to not have to play deep because so much of my study was just centered around like the pre-flop stuff that was run at 100 big blinds, and there would be shifts in that as you got deeper that I was not super privy to.
I think we can basically like, I know Brandon loves his time, which is good for us, I guess. Like, it's like either he's gonna have to like forfeit, like he's gonna have to play faster, which will make him uncomfortable, or we get the beneficial rat hole from him. So
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably focus more at 100, given that we can basically control the stack size.
So,
So,
yeah, I agree with that.
I don't know, it's a little metagame thing. And then other than that, yeah, I was pretty happy listening in on this. It looks like things went really well, so I'm happy there. And then yeah, just last, like, you're feeling good still, Paint?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I felt like I played pretty well this session as well.
Sure.
There were like a few hiccups that I wanted to look at, but overall I felt like I played really well, especially early on in the match today.
And then you're feeling like, or like outside of this challenge, you're doing okay? Like you're
Yeah. I'm
everything,
doing
like life is all in
life is
place,
good.
basically. Yeah.
Life is good.
No, I
Bitcoin's
mean,
going
like,
up.
oh yeah, Bitcoin is going up. That is why Thomas is so happy.
I've been receiving all my payments
ecstatic.
challenge in Bitcoin. He sent me like 55K in Bitcoin, and I was at like 70. It's great. Life is good.
Excellent.
Life is
Very
good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to add actually, other than I think things are good. Stick, like, you know, stay the course basically is my only my comment there.
Yeah, so like this last 2,000 hands is probably just reversion to the mean. So this was run good. This is average.
Yeah.
So don't think that you've suddenly, you know, started to lose or anything. You haven't. This is just what it should have been from the whole beginning.
Yeah, I agree.
At the beginning, you ran like God.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. And I also, like, yesterday was like another sun run basically. There was like Monday and Tuesday this week, I ran kind of bad. Yesterday, my son ran. I won like 7 buy-ins. And then today I ran kind of bad. Lost 2 buy-ins. It's whatever. On to next.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like as the challenge like goes on, he's going to like start feeling it more and more. Like basically, like, what are we up? Like 22.5 plus 3.25. So
it should be close to 26.
Yeah, like 25.75, right? So like as the challenge goes on, like he's going to have less and less hands to catch up. He's gonna like probably start playing like dog shit, to be honest, or he's gonna play way more volatile.
I've also considered that. That's actually kind of another reason why I think the 7-5 hand was kind of bad, because I'm like, he's probably just fucking shipping it in here with fucking.
The 7-5 versus ace jack hand.
Yeah.
On a7-5 jack, yeah, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, I think in general, I expect him to continue calling a lot and continue like he one of his leaks, which is interesting in the context of this challenge because he does need to pump up the variance, is value betting like very big, where like your hand can get called by worse, but it's not the most efficient value bet size. I've noticed that like multiple times throughout the challenge. There's one the other day where I called him light with like 3rd pair and a blocker, and he had like top pair strong kicker after over betting twice, and he just had like 1 pair, which it's too thin to go for the second over bet on the river. Like you should pot it, but he does that a lot. He value bets for sizes that he value bets for sizes that are too big. Yeah, they're just like too big for his hand class, which is fine if I'm more capped than I should be at equilibrium, but I'm RNGing everything, so I have some traps, and I think he's losing more big blinds post flop, but like he's pumping up the variance, which is good for him. Okay, 1 sec. Yeah, I think that's it.
That's all for me.
Yeah, all right, we're good.
Great.
I'll send you this simulation for you to look at.
I'll upload this to.
I'll send you. Yeah.
I'll stop.